Hello there. You are listening to the Aligned Birth podcast. We've got both hosts today, Dr. Shannon and Doula Rachael, and it's another birthday topic day. And today's topic is setting up the birth cave. I love this name. It was one that Rachel had put in there for forever ago. So this has been on our list probably since the podcast has started. But what is it? Why is it important? This can be, and this is not just setting up a birth cave like for a home birth. This is setting up a birth cave wherever you're going to give birth, because there's things that you can do in the hospital. There's things that you can do at the house, like lots of different things. Now, they may differ as far as what you can do at a hospital, what you can do at a house, and each hospital is different. So yes, there's aspects to that. But why do you want to set up your birth cave? Why is it important to set up this space that makes you feel safe and welcome and loved and comfortable? So I think you just answered the question, like, why are we setting up the birth cave? It's to help facilitate births. Welcome to the Aligned Birth podcast. I'm Dr. Shannon, a prenatal chiropractor.
And I'm Rachael, a birth doula and childbirth educator. Together, we're here to bring you conversations about pregnancy, birth, and motherhood. From cesarean to VBAC, hospital to home births, we've experienced it all. We are high school friends who reconnected through our shared passion for health and birth. As moms to two young boys, we've both changed careers after our own transformative childbirth experiences.
Join us as we discuss the importance of a healthy body and mind throughout pregnancy, birth, and into motherhood. Our goal is to provide fun, interesting, and helpful conversations and interviews that inspire learning. When your body, mind, and intuition are aligned, you can conquer anything.
Sit back and relax, or grab a notebook and take some notes, or maybe listen as you enjoy a walk. However you choose to listen, we hope you enjoy this episode of the Aligned Birth podcast. Before we get into the episode today, if you enjoy the content of this podcast, we would greatly appreciate your support in one of three ways. First, leave us a review or give us a 5-star rating. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and make a bigger impact. Second, you can sign up for our newsletter. By doing so, you'll be the first to receive new episodes and exclusive bonus resources straight to your inbox each week. Lastly, you can become a direct listener supporter. Running this podcast requires significant time, effort, and resources. Your contribution, no matter the amount, helps us continue providing valuable content to a wider audience. Simply use the links in the show notes to make your donation, sign up for our newsletter, or leave us a review. Every contribution matters and is sincerely appreciated. If the Aligned Birth podcast is a part of your weekly routine and you love what we are doing, please consider supporting us through one of these three options. Your support will create a ripple effect, allowing us to reach more listeners and make a lasting difference.
I'm really excited to chat with you today about this, Rachel.
Hi, Dr. Shannon. I know why you picked birth cave as the topic, because you just said you're ready to go hibernate.
I am ready to go hibernate. I know. As we're recording this, we were just talking about, we just got back from our fall break. So it was the end of September. We had 2 different fall breaks. And my family and I went to the beach. And then, I come back and now it's like pumpkins. I'm like,
well, this weekend, the highs are only in the 60s.
Yeah.
And the lows are in the 40s. And we're in Georgia.
Slap in the face.
And it's been really warm.
Yeah.
We've been getting little glimpses of fall, but very excited for some
but I was
weather.
Messaging a friend the other day too, and I was like, man, I am ready to hibernate.
Hibernate. Well, I think that's funny because you said that, and then I was like, look at our topic. I know. Birth cave. It's been on the list forever. And then you're like,
we've never done
cave.
It
spoke to you because you're like, I want to go into a cave.
I would like to go to a cave. I'm ready for it.
Oh, that's funny.
I want to be, comforted. I want to wear flannel and
I know some people may not envision cave as comfy, but it's like a vibe.
Yeah.
It's like a place where, like, your birth cave can be whatever you want it to be, right? But it's really what makes you feel, and you touched on this, safe, private, supported, comfortable, loved. So like this cave doesn't obviously have to look like a real cave, but it sort of like speaks to the primal part of labor, to where a lot of people go, especially in a like normal physiological unmedicated birth, especially where you kind of really retreat. It's like an instinctual thing that people do without like being told to.
Without
It's
being
like
told. Yeah.
it's like you kind of gravitate, like you want to retreat. You don't want to be out around a bunch of strangers. You don't want to be in a bright place. Maybe you do. Maybe there are birthers out, for sure. I get it. There are birthers out there who want that. But for a lot of people, you tend to go inward, and then you need to feel safe. Like you need to feel like you trust your provider, you trust your partner, you trust your people, you trust yourself. Like you've got to feel safe.
Well, and so this is funny. I forgot that I had heard cave so recently in a podcast that I was watching on Instagram. Oh my gosh. Anyways, you know how it goes.
You were
podcast that I was watching on Instagram.
Okay.
What is going on?
I guess that could be us too.
It was like, well, it's us. Yeah. It was like a little reel. And it's Courtney Dauwalter. So she's this amazing ultra marathon woman. Like she just became the first athlete to ever win. It was Western States, which is a 100-mile race, Hard Rock, UTMB. Like she's insane. And then every time you see her, she's this giant smile on her face after running so far, and you think it's so hard. But she talks, someone had asked her, and it was like, well, how do you do it? Because it's not easy, and there's got to be pain involved in it. And she talks about the cave that she goes to in her mind when it's like, I can't do it anymore, or this is too hard. There's this cave that she goes to, and then it was this whole long thing. And it's a little bit different than, the birth aspect. But I remember thinking that, and I was like, that is really cool. So there's also this aspect of the birth cave creating this space, but then maybe there's the aspect of the mental. It's not only just, it's like all the senses, but it's also the cave, like, in the mind. Maybe there's like the birth cave in the mind.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
We actually were just talking about this with a client who is planning to deliver in a few weeks. She's like kind of into pregnancy, but she's also an athlete. So she's done a lot of training, like CrossFit type stuff. And we asked her, and we kind of asked some probing questions with our clients. And if there's like something they've done in their life where they've trained for in any sort of physical capacity, we latch onto that because there's so many parallels with where you have to go to get through it. And we were like, okay, you're in your CrossFit class, you're doing your umpteenth rep of something really rigorous. You want to keep going, right? But where do you go? And she's like, to a dark place. Not like dark, depressing place. Not dark, depressing.
Exactly.
It's like a dark place.
So I don't know. That's so beautiful. I had no intention of even mentioning that with this episode, because when I had first saw it, so first, yes, I wanted to hibernate. And then the cave came up, and now it's also the mental cave too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And when you can see like, okay, so, and again, a lot of people have experienced some kind of physical fitness, like intense thing, maybe. Like it's easier to it's more likely that you've done something like that than given birth, right? So when we're trying to find these like access points to give them some insight into what is needed, we like when they've had some experience like that, because then we use it because it's so true. So in labor, so you got the cave, so that's like supporting that's your external environment, and it's supporting the hormones of labor and birth. That's the oxytocin and endorphins need to flow, and in order for those to flow, you have to feel safe, private, comfortable, and because when you don't feel safe, private, comfortable, you have an increase in cortisol and adrenaline. And cortisol is your stress hormone. Adrenaline is your fight or flight hormone. And if we experience those too early in labor, slows down labor. But that's a physiological response. It's saying, we're not safe here, baby. We need to slow things down as much as possible so that we can protect mom and baby. Now, at the end of labor, you have a spike in adrenaline because you need to get baby out. Because once you've progressed so far, like if you're in nature and a mammal's giving birth, like they need to speed things up so they can get away from the predator. We have similar things happening with us. So later in labor, you have a spike in that, which is cool, serves a purpose as well, helps get the baby out. But in early labor or early and active labor, like all before that, you want to support oxytocin and endorphins so that labor can flow. So we don't have the responses of cortisol and endorphins. Those are different, like they're different nervous systems. They don't really flow at the same time. So one will overtake the other if it is having more input, right? So if in your external environment, and this happens, tends to happen, can happen if you're shifting from home to hospital, where you've gone from your comfort of your home, your cave-like
feeling
things,
safe and happy,
safe, private, like you know everyone around you, to a very brightly lit, a very sterile smelling, a place full of new faces. While it's like intellectually, you know, it's safe. That's like you're choosing to birth there.
Right. It's logically
There's still
safe,
like an impact on when you think about those things. So I like to also use the example of if you can really pay attention to how you feel physiologically when you go to the doctor's office, you know, you have similar things, strangers, bright lights, sterile environment, like a little bit faster heart rate, a little bit hot, cold sweats, a little bit like anxious, like that is your adrenaline starting to be like, okay, what's happening here? Cortisol. It's like we have these, it serves a role. It keeps us safe, right? It helps us protect ourselves. But understanding how that works in labor so that you can protect like your space so that the right hormones flow when they need to flow. That's the goal here. So your external environment is your birth cave, and then the internal environment, the dark place, the dark cave that you go to is like mental aerobics. There's just like this thing you have to do at a certain point in labor in order to get through it. And maybe that's a conversation for another day, because that's like, you know, you're addressing two different things.
Yeah. And I think even the
both
next
important
conversation
now.
we're going to record, it's going to be about that aspect of things.
I
but
like
it's just
it
a fun way to look at
brutally
it.
honest. Like, and it looks different for everyone, because I really do think a lot of people preparing for birth who want unmedicated have a vision of their birth of being like kumbaya. Right. And there are so many beautiful, peaceful, happy, orgasmic births. There's like a whole range, but I do feel like that is not necessarily happening for everyone, and everyone has like different experiences, and preparing for like this dark place that you got to go to and how to access it, and how to, and dark doesn't mean bad. It's like what you have to do to get through. So I love that little tangent.
I know,
put
a fun tangent.
Pin in that, because I really do feel like I could talk about that for
the mental birth cave. I know.
Well, I think it's a lot of mental. I also feel like talking about the birth cave is helping you cope mentally. It is helping set the tone of what you need.
You're setting the ability for you to access the cave. I think that's how they're connected.
Yeah.
Because so I had a patient in yesterday. I was telling her the episodes that we're going to record. She's pregnant now, just kind of midway through her pregnancy. And I was telling her about these episodes. And then she asked, my first birth was emergency cesarean, and she was asking me kind of the things that led to that. She, just kind of wanted to know. So I was very honest as far as like, this is what I think. And I remember going through, and like we'd gotten to the hospital and everything. We're in the room, and I'm laboring for, it feels like forever. I think it was around like 18 hours or so. I think I remember having these thoughts. And I was like, I'm really tired of that stupid rocking chair, and it's brown and it's ugly, and this room is bright and there's lots of blue and everything is blue, and it just sucked. And I remember telling her, I was like, it just sucked, and the rocking chair sucked. And so we were just laughing about it, because I was like, that was not a birth cave for me. And I'm like, I really hated that rocking chair. Like I don't know what it was about this thing. So that was not a happy birth cave for me. But that's where,
and sometimes the birth cave needs to change. Yeah, it does. But were you able, in the moment, were you able to identify, I hate this? Or was that a hindsight thing?
I don't know if it was a hindsight thing, but there's like an image I have in my mind, and it was this one nurse leaving again. Like all the nurses just kept coming in and leaving because I was there for forever. And it was like, I just remember seeing her walk out the room. She was dressed in all blue. She was cute as could be, very nice, very helpful. And then I saw that rocking chair, and I just remembered that picture in my mind. So I guess that I got back to, so I don't know if I was cursing the rocking chair at the time, because I actually used it That's why I didn't like it so much. Maybe it's hindsight. I have no idea.
Well, I think there are things that can set us off, that we can like really disrupt us and disturb us in labor.
I wasn't
And again,
expecting a rocking
you couldn't
chair
have predicted that. But I think the important thing is being able to express it and identify it. And I do think in labor, it's harder for people to shift their environment, to shift something, because it just feels either everyone's thinking, oh, the end is almost near, or I'm in labor, it doesn't matter. Like, versus like, I'm going to change this now in an effort to make the rest of labor go more smoothly. You know, that it's like an inertia that's hard to kind of to overcome, to initiate it. So takes, again, a lot of things we talk about, takes intentionality, takes communication with your partner and your doula and your midwife, your team, of like, this is what I really want, so that they can help you achieve that, help support that. And then, you know, you might say, I really want twinkly lights because I want that birth cave vibe or whatever. And then you really could like get into labor and be like, no, that's not working for me. So again, flexibility, but understanding why it works. So the nomenclature, or like this fun term, birth cave, is really about addressing your birth environment. And this is at home as well as at the hospital. And it's to facilitate the flow of the hormones we need in birth. Oxytocin, that's your love hormone. That's what produces contractions. Your uterus has oxytocin receptors on them. And over time, from early labor all the way through, they're building up. And so the more oxytocin you produce, the longer, stronger your contractions are going to be, which makes labor more efficient. And we want labor to be efficient. Oxytocin is also released in your brain and helps you cope with pain. It helps reduce your pain perception, and it's on a cycle, on a loop. So it keeps going so long as that loop is being fed. And so it's really cool that how it helps you cope with pain, helps you perceive pain. Like, so as your pain is increasing, oxytocin is increasing and helping you cope. So, you know, I've used this example before, but if you walked into labor at 10 centimeters, like without any hormones to help you cope or anything, it would be a very impossible thing to overcome. But with a slow, steady build of oxytocin and endorphins over time, you have more abilities to cope. Also being produced at the same time are endorphins, and endorphins are neck and neck with morphine and how they help you. It's like nature's painkiller. And those are, that's your happy hormone. So you got your love hormone going, your happy hormone going, and we want those to just flow freely. And in order for those to flow freely, you need to feel loved, connected, safe, private, comfortable. We've said this many times, but we're going to keep saying it because that is the goal of the birth cave. Whatever you want to make your birth cave be, that's what you need to feel, because that's what's going to help the hormones flow. For some people, it's watching a comedy show, because laughing just really makes, you know, the oxytocin flow for them. But we talk specifically here about like the birth cave in like the, let's have that calm environment, maybe a darker environment, private. That's like, I think, a good place to start, especially if in labor you're feeling more stressed. And this is another thing to touch on too. So at home, the birth cave happens more organically. You can turn off your lights, you can get in the tub, you can eat your food, take a shower, be in your bed with your blankets and your pillows, and you kind of have these things more organically. But when you do shift to the hospital and you're coming up against the things that you're going to come up against in the place you've chosen to give birth, but that's part of it, but it can be overcome by getting through, you get through triage, you get through that part. And when you get into your room, you set up your room, your hospital room, as if it's home. As many things that you can bring in. And I'm going to share some tips of like how to kind of transform your hospital room into your birth cave. Because that's where it's like, okay, I've been at home, I've been rocking and rolling, and now I'm shifting. And not only are you having to get through like triage and overcome bright lights, strange faces, sterile environment, cold, all those things. Now you're in your room, that also feels the same way. So what can you do, right? I like to also bring the parallel of like, what makes you feel better when you don't feel well? So, and for most of us women, our cycles, when we're PMSing or having our period, is a good thing to draw on. Like, what feels good to you during that time? Usually comforting warm foods, a heating pad, a bed, comfortable bed with your pillow, your blanket, curled up, cozy, usually not a lot of people around. Or if you're, you can talk about being sick too, but I don't want to go too much into that because being pregnant is not being sick at all, or giving
Right.
birth is not being sick, but it's
Right.
like, what do we like? What makes us feel better when we're not feeling well?
Good. Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's some of those things I just shared here. So I want you to sort of like try and translate that to labor of like, what can I do to help me feel better in labor or more at home or more comfortable? So the things that you can consider are sight. So dimming the lights, hanging twinkly lights. Twinkly lights just have an effect.
Yeah.
Like turning off overhead lights, like those fluorescent lights in hospitals are the worst. They're stress inducing for anybody. So turn off those lights. You can, right? You have rights. You can turn off the, and then request the staff to only use lights that are necessary. We have lights in our bags that they're twinkly lights. And many nurses have said these lights are great because they provide enough light, like to see.
Yeah, that they're useful.
But they're still twinkly. They still give the vibe.
The mood, the vibe. Yeah.
But they're bright enough to where nurses don't feel like they need to turn on overhead lights, which is super cool. And they comment on that. They're like, oh, this is great. So that's less disruption to the environment. But twinkly lights just have an effect. Think about how you feel about like looking at a Christmas tree. A lot of people, it gives a good, warm feeling. Another thing is an eye mask. So if it's daytime or even like getting through triage when there's lots of bright lights, like an eye mask can really force you to keep your eyes closed and force you to go towards the dark place because you've got the eye mask on, because it's really hard to keep your eyes
some
closed.
Of those other senses. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the stimulation, and then kind of forcing you to do that. If you could do like, they make them with essential like lavender, or you could warm it up or make it cold, like whatever you want to do to help make that. I think that's a great tip for getting through triage. I like eye mask and earpods or earplugs for your ears to get through, to try and keep the stimulation to a minimum. And then sound. So we have sight and then sound. So in the hospital, there's a lot of chirping and beeping and people talking. So trying to keep it quiet. You can put a sign on the door, so that people come in, they're using softer voices. As a doula, we always talk in very soft voices, and that kind of helps everyone else do the same.
Yeah.
Playing music either on a wireless speaker or I like the direct in-ear pods.
Yeah.
Because it's like more of a direct sensory effect.
Exactly.
So whatever, have options. You can bring both. Or earplugs to help keep sound out if music is too stimulating. And trying to keep chatter if you have other people in the room, like really trying to focus like on quiet and not a lot of like other conversation, unless you're like leading that or asking for that.
I was going to say, unless that's, what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other is the scent. So hospitals have a very sterile smell. We want them to be clean, but that comes with a certain smell. And so if you want to bring your own little diffuser, or just have like the roll-on essential oils for your wrist so that you can just give a little like sniff. And you don't have to be like a big essential oil person to use essential oils in birth. I think lavender is a very common one that a lot of people like. It's very relaxing. It's very pleasant. Citrus oils are good, like orange or lemon.
Orange is really good. Yeah.
Peppermint is good if you're feeling like a little nauseous.
And we have an episode too. We'll put it in the show notes about essential oils during pregnancy. So we go all through that.
But anytime I've been in a birth and I've been like using essential oils, like the staff is always like, this is amazing. And then like one of my favorite tricks is to get a bowl of ice water, and I take a rag and I put it in there, and I put a few drops of orange, and I wring the rag out. So now I have a cold rag infused with orange oil, and I waft it over their face, and it never fails. The response is almost always like, oh God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just like the smallest thing, right? So essential oils, So we have sight,
Definitely.
sound, scent. So the 3 S's. We're going to address those things and be like, what can I bring in to make it be what I want? And then home-like things. So reminder, you can bring your own robe or your own labor
Yeah.
clothes. You can bring
Yes,
your own
definitely.
pillow,
Your
your
own
own
slippers.
blanket, your own socks. Everyone at the hospital gets size XL, bright yellow or some crazy like grippy socks that they require you to wear to go to and from the bathroom. Bring your own socks or your own slippers. Like, it just feels so good. Those are your creature comforts. Those are your things like you want to hang out in on the weekends. Like, and it's okay. It might feel like you're moving in. I think it's worth it. You don't have to bring all of this, but like, think about what means, like, if you have your favorite pillow or favorite blanket, like, or favorite thing, t-shirt, I don't know, whatever it is, like, that's going to help you feel comfortable.
And
you're going to be able to rest.
Robe. I still have my robe that I wore when I was at the hospital with Ethan. I love that robe.
Yeah.
You know, I still love that thing. So, and I think about that.
Some people say the first intervention is the hospital gown because it's like, it says hospital property, or it's heavy and like not very soft, and someone else has worn it and like, but it seems like a no big deal. You're like, it's just a robe. And some people could really care less. And I can tell when people truly don't care.
Yeah.
But for those, if you're like, this is one little thing I could do, like, make it home-like. So make your labor and delivery room home-like.
And
another great tip. Oh,
sorry.
No,
it just came to me though, as far as maybe like have these things in the car, you know, packed, and you don't necessarily have to have them all at like once.
Right.
You know, so it could be something as you go along that you didn't realize, you know, we have the robe in the car. I didn't think the gown was going to be this big of an issue, but can we go get that? So that way maybe it feels better that you're not feeling like you're moving in.
Right.
That could maybe make you feel a little overwhelmed too, but then you can at least access it then, as far as like kind of bringing it along, or maybe you know, something you didn't necessarily think that you were going to like or want or need. It would just be good,
you could
to
have like a reserve.
with you.
Yeah, 100%. And we do also say like have your labor bags and then have your postpartum bags, and you don't have to bring them all up. That's another way to make it feel like you're bringing less up, like all the stuff for the baby. If you have like postpartum PJs or nursing tanks or whatever, like, because you transition to another room for postpartum. So we say like, you can send your husband, doula, family member. It's a great to-do task for somebody to bring your other, like, kind of swap out your stuff. Exactly. So it feels like it's less stuff. So I'm all about that. But also it's okay to bring stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't worry about what people think.
No. Only if it's like, if it's overwhelming for you to be like, God, I don't want to think that. Yeah. But who cares? Yeah. Bring all the things.
Bring all the things. But the last tip I'll share too is that the bathroom in a hospital is also a great place to set up a cave-like environment, especially upon admittance. So you've come through triage, like that's a big shift. So I just say go directly into the bathroom, close the door. You know, if you have any sort of electric, that's the other thing, is electric, like tea light candles, even just one in the bathroom can make it feel all like romantic and cozy. Have your phone, play some music, or not, you know, whatever you want. But then sit on the toilet, empty your bladder, like hang out there for a minute, take like a reset. It's dark, it's private, and people really, especially in the bathroom, they're not going to barge in. If you stay in there too long, they're eventually going to like ask you to come out because they're going to want to like check on the baby and stuff. But it's a good place to go and be like, you know, take a minute, take a beat, reset. Or at any point in labor, you need a reset. Bathroom, close the door, hang out.
So that's like, you can create like a cave within the cave. You've got the birth cave there. Then you go into the bathroom cave. So then you can go into your mental cave.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
There's layers. Yeah.
Layers upon layers.
I love it. I love when the conversations go in areas where I'm like, I wasn't
even thinking of that.
All the caves. Those are really good. Those are really good things. They're very simple. They're very easy. It's not very complicated. And it just takes some effort beforehand. You know?
And then I think understanding the benefits, like the process of what your body is going through and why it matters. Because some people be like, it feels materialistic, or it feels extra, or it feels whatever. But it's like, if you understand the benefits of it and why it would be something you could try to help you, I think then it's like, okay, but you gotta be open to it. Just some tips, some ideas. I love it.
Yep. I know. I love it. Thanks for listening, friends. Stay tuned next week for another episode. Thank you for joining us on the Aligned Birth Podcast. We hope you found our discussions informative, inspiring, and enjoyable. Remember, when your body, mind, and intuition are aligned, you have the power to overcome any challenge that comes your way. We appreciate your support and leaving a review or rating, signing up for our newsletter, or becoming a direct listener supporter. Your contribution helps us continue delivering valuable content and reaching more listeners like yourself. Stay connected with us through our newsletter to receive the latest episodes and bonuses straight to your inbox each week. You can also connect with us on Instagram at aligned_birth. All links can be found in the show notes. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of the birthing individuals and new moms. Thank you for being a part of our community. We look forward to sharing more empowering conversations on the Aligned Birth Podcast. Until next time.